It's the BS Movies Podcast with Brian and Shelly.
Welcome to BS Movies. My name is Brian.
Hi, I'm Shelly.
And thanks for joining us here today. We're going to talk a little bit about remakes here. Everybody's favorite thing in movies. Everybody loves remakes. Right now, I mean, this is sort of topical right now because people are absolutely losing their shit over this Ghostbusters reboot that's just recently come out. And I can tell you right now, I've seen the movie. It's not as good as the original Ghostbusters, and it's much smaller in scale, but like people are getting really bent out of shape about nothing, I feel like.
Yeah, I just had a conversation with work with somebody about this who was really, he's sort of like, well, can't we get an original idea? And I'm like, well,
yes,
we can.
I agree. I would like original ideas. Yes, I agree with.
Yeah, but I think you're finding those more in some smaller independent movies. But yeah, I think he seems to get tired of remakes and superhero movies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And
trust me, I'm right there with you, buddy.
Yeah,
so, I hear what you're saying, definitely. But there are definitely remakes that are out there that are not only as good as the originals, but sometimes even better than the originals.
Yeah, I think there's some movies, and I think that's what we'll be talking about today. I think there's some movies out there that we can go ahead and remake because maybe that original version wasn't that good.
Right.
So let's either bring this to a newer audience or try to introduce, maybe it is a good story, but maybe it wasn't executed very well. So I think
that's the way I wish people would remake movies. Because the good movies were good. You don't need to fix that.
Right.
Fix the one that had like a good concept and just didn't execute it well, But yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. So the first movie that I wanted to talk about was The Thing. So The Thing is an unbelievably great action movie. It's a really great horror movie. It's a really good sci-fi movie.
Yes.
It does an amazing job of getting the paranoia of the situation that they were in and the claustrophobia of so it's, a movie that's set in the Arctic basically, and they're an expedition that's looking for minerals or something. I don't exactly remember exactly why they were there. They were looking for something.
Yeah. And
then they ultimately find a UFO that's crashed into the Arctic. And so the original, from the 50s, is a very good movie. I really do enjoy that movie a lot, actually. And it certainly has its merits and, everything. But, this was, the first movie that really sort of understood, that the concept could be used so much more effectively if you really do, because they don't really focus on the fact that you're in the Arctic and there's nobody that's coming to save you. In the original, they're just sort of there, and it happens. Whereas this, it's like you are on your own and there's nobody coming and there's nobody within 1,000 miles of you right now.
Right. And like you said, it kind of creates that great sense of paranoia when they all start to think.
They all start turning on each other and the other's infected. One of them, exactly. Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
And the special effects by Rick Baker are unbelievable in this movie. I watch it to this day. I watched the remake of The Thing because this is another movie. This has been remade 3 times now, I think.
Yeah.
And so, the new one is, I didn't really care much for it. I really like Mary Elizabeth Winstead a lot as an actress. I didn't think it was just executed very well. And, they do all the CG stuff in that one. And I'm just like, oh, my God, this doesn't even look a tenth as good as, the stuff that I know is plastic, from 1980. But unbelievable special effects makeup in this. That, to me, I don't think this was initially much of a hit when it came out, and then this one ultimately found its following later on, re-releases and video and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it definitely found its home there.
And Kurt Russell in the height of his
awesome
manliness and just, oh my God.
Yeah.
Another one of those ones where you look at him and you're just like, God, you were beautiful. No wonder you're in movies. I understand. Yeah, you are hell. He's still a really great looking guy,
He is.
Good gracious, man. Do you have to have everything? It makes me so angry. But no, The Thing.
Yeah, he's got this great sense of humor.
The Thing, yeah. And then there was another one that's sort of thematically in that same area with The Fly, where it was same sort of thing with the Rick Baker makeup and stuff like that, where I just felt like these were well-executed concepts originally in the 50s when they did them and on the budgets that they did them on. But like when they reimagined those films
Right.
with the, being able to do like really impressive special effects and stuff, it just took the movie to a whole nother level.
Right.
So, The Thing for sure and The Fly, unbelievably good movies from that time frame.
Yeah. The Fly is amazing.
Yeah.
And so is The Thing. The one I'm going to talk about, there's a movie that's a remake from 1961 called The Children's Hour, which is based on a play also known as The Children's Hour that was made in the 30s. The movie was originally made called These Three.
Okay.
And it's the same director. I thought that was interesting. I didn't realize it.
Oh, that's cool.
Both the 1930s version of this and of this story and the 1961 version were both directed by William Wyler, who also made Ben-Hur, Roman Holiday, Funny Girl. So he's got a great.
He's okay. He seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah, he might know what he's doing. But The Children's Hour stars your girl Audrey Hepburn.
I'm surprised I've never heard of this movie.
And
it's got Audrey in it? Oh.
It's got Audrey in it and Shirley MacLaine and James Garner.
Oh, man. And they're all like super young. And
super young, super beautiful.
And
I mean, just fantastic. And MacLaine and Hepburn they work at a boarding school. And so they're like the heads of this boarding school for girls.
Okay.
And James Garner is the boyfriend of Audrey Hepburn. So he's around a lot. Well, one of the girls, and keep in mind, this play was originally written in the 1930s. One of the girls gets upset at the two...
the couple?
Gets upset at Hepburn and MacLaine because she wants to do something and they won't let her do it.
Okay.
So she gets mad and she starts a rumor amongst the other girls and tells her parents that they are lesbians, that they're lovers.
Oh, okay.
So this becomes this big, horrible controversy within the community. And so the remake touches on that lesbianism more the original because it's...
They didn't talk about the lesbians in the 1930s
in the 1930 under the Hays Code.
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
they made it like a love triangle that both women were having an affair with.
Everybody knows
the
that lesbians were created in 1973 or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Everybody knows that.
I hope Lacey's listening to this. So that was for you, Lacey.
That was for you, Lacey. It's a really great movie because it also, and of course I work at a school, so this is always one of those things you worry about is something I do going to get misconstrued into something else. And so that's what happens is this girl starts this horrible rumor and kind of destroys all of the relationships. But I do appreciate that in the film, it kind of touches on the girl begins to understand that her words had some power.
Right, exactly.
That it can,
she didn't intend to do this.
She's being kind of a bratty 12-year-old or whatever, but that it does kind of affect everybody around her, from her family. And it's a really great movie. I really, as uncomfortable as it does make me, because you can put yourself in that place.
Oh, for sure.
It's just really well done. And I definitely prefer, I've seen both versions. I definitely prefer the 1961 version over the 30s version. There were some people out there, I was reading some reviews online that prefer
the old one.
But this one to me is the one to watch. So
yeah, well, I actually notated it so that I can watch it at a later date here.
All right.
I always love it when this is the great thing is I've probably seen 10,000 movies in my lifetime, I would think, and that's people think that I'm being crazy when I say that. That is probably underselling it, you know. And like the great thing is you can see 10,000 movies and there's still all these other great movies out there that you still haven't seen.
Right.
You know, it just never ends with movies. I feel like, so I love that. So my next movie that I want to talk about is Little Shop of Horrors. The remake on this one, I mean, like, the concept alone, you know, just sounds like ripe for disaster, right?
Right.
We're going to remake a science fiction movie that was terrible. It is mostly known as being Jack Nicholson's first movie, right? Right. Where Jack Nicholson plays the character who loves pain. So he's the one who goes to the dentist and like asks for all the, I don't want any Novocaine or whatever. The remake is just, you know, and you're casting Steve Martin and Rick Moranis in it. And, by the way, it's going to be a musical, too.
Right.
And we're going to have animatronic puppets that sing. And you're just like, there's no way this works, right? And, man, do they just, like, execute that on such a grand scale. Like, I love that it starts out as a very small movie, and then it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where, like, Audrey now is like, is she going to try and maybe take over the world, you know?
Right.
And so it's just one of those movies where, like, another one where CG versus practical effects. Like, everything that you see in Little Shop of Horrors was legitimately on the set, you know, at the time that they were shooting it, you know. There's no touch-up or anything like that. And does it look a little bit hokey at times? Sure, but like it's also way more super effective because you know you're looking at something physical. Right. And then just the Audrey 2, you know, just being like a Motown, you know, and just with the great songs. There's
it's a lot of fun.
So
it's
many
been
good songs.
I'll need to check this out again. Like I saw it a long time ago. I know I saw it.
And I love Steve Martin being the psychotic dentist, you know, and like, I mean, there's just so many nice touches. And I feel like, you know, and that's not really the role that Steve Martin really gets, you know, cast in very often. He's typically the nice guy or the doofus, you know. So to see him be sort of like a mean-spirited, you know,
kind of
like,
over the top,
you know, that was sort of nice. The Frank Oz and the Muppets that were incorporated into the film were just unbelievable. Like the Muppets, the shop, the Jim Henson shop, unbelievably good. So I can't recommend this one highly enough. This one is a great movie and one that I break out every couple of years.
Now, have you seen that original one from the 60s?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is not. It is not a good movie.
Good. Okay.
It's
a Corman movie.
Yeah, it's a Roger Corman. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And so like, but it was one of those ones where it sort of it's like that's kind of a cool concept, like a plant that eats humans. You know, I like that. You know, and another one where like. This to me, this is the perfect remake because the original is not very good.
Right. No.
But it was a good concept that, like, if you just put it in the right.
So now let's take it and execute it well. Yeah.
And just so well executed on this one, you know, all the way around. I feel like.
All right. Well, the next one I'm going to talk about, I'm sure I will be committing blasphemy by talking about this one, but I'm going to talk about the original True Grit versus the remake of True Grit.
Okay.
The original True Grit, of course, with John Wayne came out in 1969, and then the remake with Jeff Bridges, Haley Stanfield, and Matt Damon, 2010. Yeah,
2010, okay.
Directed by the Coen brothers, so it's kind of got this great pedigree.
Exactly. You can't say, you know.
Yeah.
Who's the mighty? Oh, the Coen brothers. Okay, maybe the Coen brothers.
Before we went and saw the remake, my husband and I watched the original, and it's not great.
It's okay. I mean, like, I always thought it was a little hokey, and like John Wayne is like, he's not well cast in the movie, and this is like a role that he used to like just slam dunk probably, but by this point in his career, like this is pretty close to when he died, right?
Yeah. So, it came out in 1969.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I think he won for Rooster Cogburn like the next year or so for the Oscars. Then was
right, exactly. Another one. Yeah, exactly. It was another one where they're just like, well, you're John Wayne and you've made us $1 million, you know, or $1 billion.
Yeah.
Here's your
Good
Oscar.
Job. Here you
Yeah, I'm not a super big fan of the original True Grit. I'm sort of in the same boat as you. I just felt like Rooster is supposed to be exactly what Jeff Bridges is in the Coen brothers
exactly.
movie.
No, I think he executes it. And I think, like we were saying, I think in our previous episode that, sometimes you get distracted by the actor.
Right.
That's playing a character.
Right.
And so, John Wayne was such a...
he was just
such
John
a
Wayne.
force.
Yeah, exactly.
That you were watching a John Wayne movie and not kind of this great character of Rooster. And so I think in the remake, because it's Jeff Bridges who encapsulates that character well. Then you're kind of like, okay, I can watch this, and this is a really great story. It's not just John Wayne helping out this little girl who's obnoxious. I mean, in both movies.
In both movies,
she's a really obnoxious kid.
But she's way better in the
But I
remake.
think in the remake,
way better.
I think you understand her motivations a little bit more than in
like in the original you're just like,
version.
what the hell is this kid even doing here? It's just like, no, you'd send her home. Whereas in this one, you just like you understand. She's just like, I'm not giving you money and you're going to say that you're going to do this. I'm giving you money and then you're going to show me you doing this. You know?
I want to see you do this.
Right.
You're going to find the person that killed my father, and you're going to take care of business.
Exactly.
And I think Damon's performance in it is really strong.
Very good,
This kind of this, the dandy officer, Texas Ranger.
Right.
So I think all around, I think that is I actually prefer the remake.
Yeah, I'm way more
as just as a really strong for the story, is just a really strong story, because I think there's other John Wayne movies out there that are a lot better. I actually like Stagecoach is probably my favorite John Wayne movie.
Way better.
And that was sort of before he was John Wayne.
Right.
So yeah. Okay. So next I'm going to talk about Ocean's 11.
Okay.
As far as remakes go. And again, kind of going back to, this isn't a bad concept, but that original one is not great.
It was essentially made as a reason for them to be able to hang out in Las Vegas, Right,
yeah. No, so for those of you that don't know, the premise is somewhat similar to the 2001 Ocean's 11 with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. This is Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr.
The whole Rat Pack, basically.
The whole Rat Pack kind of hanging out in Vegas and deciding to rob 5 casinos in one night, which is a little bit different than... I guess no.
No. Yeah, they kind of... Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really hokey and not good.
Right.
So I think this was one where it was like, you know what? Yeah, this isn't a great movie. But we can maybe do something with this. So when Steven Soderbergh got a hold of it with Clooney, again, it's sort of the same thing. I mean, I do think these guys, look like they're all friends in real life. Yeah. So this was a time for them to
a reason for them to be hanging out in Las Vegas.
Party in Vegas. But they also made a really good movie.
Yeah, super fun. Great heist movie.
Because it's so fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like the heist is very well executed in the film. I felt like it was really well thought out. How can you not love George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Matt Damon just like hanging out, shooting the shit?
Exactly.
That's probably like, ultimately, that's what people dream about doing, right? Is just hanging out with those guys and like playing blackjack and stuff, right? And smoking cigars and being movie stars and stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. And how can we rob a Las Vegas casino?
Right. And make it seem realistic.
Like, if we had enough time and money, maybe we could get away with this.
Right, exactly.
No, we couldn't, but...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ultimately, that's what you end up finding out. But, I agree. Like, I think this is sort of in the same boat as True Grit, which we were just talking about, where the people that are executing are like our master storytellers, basically. The Coen brothers. They're as good of storytellers. They might be my favorite directors. Right. And same thing with Soderbergh. Like Soderbergh just understands relationships and the way that the camera needs to be framed, and he makes it very candid. Like, I always feel like you're sort of standing there with him, you know, when you're watching Soderbergh. It feels like you are just standing in the corner.
Yeah,
you know, you're part of the group. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, because those scenes are so great. Like, yeah, I just sort of want to hang out with these guys and, you know, have drinks and let's plan a heist together.
Exactly.
Like, you know, so much better than that original. Like, skip the original.
Oh yeah, don't even bother. It's not really even fun. It's
no. You would think, sort of thinking like, oh, with this cast, it would be so much fun.
Right.
But yeah, then you watch the remake where the story is executed properly,
and it really is fun.
And it is so much fun.
Yeah.
Because it's got some great humor. It's got kind of the suspense. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so
definitely. So, okay, and then the final movie that I was going to talk about here today, I almost went with A Fistful of Dollars, because it's not technically a remake, but it's pretty much a remake of Yojimbo. So, but I felt like thematically it didn't really fit exactly, so I'll just go a little bit more specific where it is an actual remake and do 3:10 to Yuma. So this is one... Like, the original 3:10 to Yuma is a fine film. You know, I don't, dislike it or anything like that, but I just felt like they executed the movie so much better in the second one. And, you know, in the original, it's all about the bad guy, you know. And in this one, they do a really nice job, you know, of Christian Bale actually being part of the story as opposed to just being dragged along, you know, for the ride.
Right.
And Russell Crowe is very good in it. I feel like they did a really nice job in terms of all the period piece, you know, dress and stuff like that. And it's another one where I think I really appreciated it because it really does feel like there's sort of a soul to this one, whereas I feel like the original is a fine film, but like, you don't really understand why this guy just keeps going after this guy, you know, in the original. Whereas in the remake, you sort of see Christian Bale's perspective from it, and you just sort of understand, like, he's just that sort of guy, that he's just built like that, and when he says he's going to do something, he has to do it.
He has to do it, right.
And so, like, his word is his bond. He has nothing else, you know. So I feel like that's one that was, you know, very solid in terms of execution. I feel like the cast was really solid in this movie. And just all around, I mean, like, Christian Bale's just one of our really great actors, I feel like. He's so good in so many things. And Russell Crowe can be a really good actor when he wants to be, you know.
Yeah, he can. And they're really strong. Like, they play off each other well. Like you said, in the original, it's sort of Glenn Ford's movie.
Yeah, Glenn Ford is. Yeah, it's all Glenn Ford. Thank you. Again, you're telling me the people that I'm forgetting. So thank you.
It's Glenn Ford's movie, and everybody else is sort of showing up for it.
Just go along for the ride. Yeah.
You know, Crowe and Bale, and especially at this time, like, this was... came out in 2007, which would that have been right before Batman Begins, sort of before Bale really exploded?
Yeah. This was pre him sort of becoming a huge star and like winning an Oscar and being Batman and all that stuff.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I've always really liked Christian Bale. I've always thought he was really solid.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just always amazing in whatever he's in.
Yeah.
He just really commits to it. And so this... You know, again, sort of like what we're saying is take some of these like not great movies, and execute
or the ones
those stories
that had
a little
like
bit better.
Certain parts that were really good, you know, but just didn't thematically fit together very well or whatever, and like and just make something good.
Although I did think it was interesting because this was actually on my list to talk about, and then I decided to do the Children's Hour.
Yeah.
I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes. The original has a 96% and the remake has 89% on the tomato meter.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Which I find kind of interesting because I've always felt like when I saw 3:10 to Yuma...
regardless of whether it's well executed or not, immediately discount it because it's a remake. I just feel like that's what happens, you know, in a lot of these cases. Plus, the other thing about Rotten Tomatoes that makes it sort of tough to really judge is because, like, how many, you know, reviews are they pulling from, you know, and they're not really pulling the reviews from when the movie was released, they're pulling movies, you
Right.
know, and everybody that goes back and watches it like 20 years later probably loves the movie already.
Yeah, it's like 96% of the 10 people that watched it and gave it a review.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it is. Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes isn't always a great,
not always the best aggregate for that, but
I did think it was. I just kind of found that interesting because I've just always felt like, because I remember saying to somebody at the time, saying, this is what we should do: get some of these crappy old westerns from the 50s and 60s and remake those. If we're going to have this resurgence of westerns and you don't have a proper story, okay, then let's do this.
Yeah, and then there was a couple of movies that when I was doing a little bit of research for this, that I didn't even realize were remakes, right? So Scent of a Woman is a remake. I did not know that. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with Michael Caine and Steve Martin, that was a remake of another movie. 12 Monkeys was a remake of some French short film or something like that.
The Wizard of Oz is a remake.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was the original one I think came out in maybe 1930 or maybe in the late 20s as sort of a silent film, and then they remade it. So there you go, people that say we shouldn't remake things.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that you can't do it. It's just,
I think sometimes it's necessary.
Get the right people together, you know, and you can make it happen. So, so as far as putting down the remote this week, I think probably what I'm going to tell you to do is go out and find the remake of Nosferatu from 78, 79.
Yes.
With Klaus Kinski, and was directed by Werner Herzog. The original Nosferatu is a wonderful film, and I would encourage everybody to go out and see it. But it's a silent film, so if you know that you can't sit through a 95-minute movie or whatever with no talking in it,
right?
The remake is just I just feel like Werner Herzog just totally understood, and he was going to make sure that he did justice to the original, because there's a few films in the German sort of coming of age of the film industry that are really revered, and Nosferatu is one of those films. And so Werner Herzog himself has sort of those very lavish, lush, beautiful looking, and then you get Klaus Kinski, who is just, I am 100% convinced Klaus Kinski was completely insane, right? I have no doubt in my mind that he was a madman, right? But man, was he electric when you would put him in movies.
Yes.
And just that was one, and I hear that he was a nightmare to work with, and I can totally understand that. But man, you watch some of these movies sometimes and you're just
oh, I'm sure it was
that's why.
Yeah, total method. I'm going to sleep in this coffin.
Exactly. Yeah. He probably did. So
probably.
All right. Really appreciate all you people listening. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Join the conversation at BS Movies Podcast on Twitter, BS Movies on Facebook, and at bsmovies.co. If you like this podcast, please take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Sharing is caring.